and Kevin Nash makes a match with Kidman for the Great American Bash. And the stakes are, if he wins, he gets a title shot at Bash at the Beach 2000. We all know where that's headed. And yeah, this is interesting, this feud. We even see Hogan wind up kissing Torrie Wilson to a big pop. What did you think of the Kidman Hogan story and involving Torrie? And I don't know, this is feels a little weird, huh?
It is weird. And I've never hidden the fact or shied away from the fact that I'm friends with Hulk. I was friends with him then. I'm still friends with him. So I don't want this to sound like I'm just defending Hulk Hogan, but I'm going to, because Hulk wanted this thing to work too. Hulk had a good deal at WCW. Hulk wanted it to work, but was smart enough to recognize that things were falling apart. And like me, to a degree, when I agreed to work with Russo, went into this with the best intentions, but also recognized that he had to change too. He had to be willing to do things that his character otherwise would never have done. And Hulk didn't want to work with Kidman. Hulk thought it was a ridiculous idea from the get-go, but also recognized that there was this, part of it was, managing the roster and trying to manage morale. Part of this was, okay, if 60% of our roster or 30% of our roster, or a large enough percent of our roster believes that they're never going to get an opportunity here, then as a leader, as the most significant talent on the roster, or one of them at least, Hulk felt responsible to try to make things work. And the Kidman idea was his attempt. It wasn't his idea, by the way, but Hulk agreed to do it because he wanted to kind of break the perception and improve the morale to the degree that he could. He didn't want to work with Billy Kidman. He didn't think that there was a story there. It had nothing to do with Billy. Billy's a phenomenal talent. He certainly was back then. It just wasn't believable. There was no story there that made it believable. There was not enough story there to make people go, I don't get it. Hulk Hogan, 275 pounds, 24-inch pythons, all the stuff that we've learned and identify with in terms of Hulk Hogan's character. Now he's going to get in a ring with a guy that probably at the time weighed $190 and was relatively new. It just wasn't believable, but it was Hulk's attempt to try to break through the perception within the audience and certainly within a locker room that if you're in the middle of the card, there's no chance you're ever going to wrestle in a main event. And that's what this was. And I don't think that had anything to do with making out with Torrie Wilson. I think he would have been happy to do that as a heel, but the whole Billy Kidman story was bizarre. Not bizarre. It was ill-conceived.
Maybe so is this next segment. Scott Steiner is going to come out with a bunch of makeup on to create a black eye and a cut up mouth. And it's going to be Scott Steiner versus Mike Awesome in an ambulance match. But once he puts the recliner on, Goldberg's music starts playing, but instead it's Tank Abbott who comes out. So Rick and Tank are going to attack Scott, who's going to hold his own until Awesome makes it 3-on-1. They're about to put Scott on the stretcher. The Goldberg truck makes the save. Yeah, the same silly Goldberg truck from a week prior. Now Rick and Tank are going to go after the truck. Scott's going to throw them both on the hood, and the truck backs it out of the arena. So Scott wins the match.
My head's going to explode.
Well, wait till you hear about this next segment. Quote, Vampiro burned a Sting mask. During the commercial, they soaked the ropes with gasoline. Sting came out, then Vampiro came out and called him Steve and said they're going to have an Inferno match on the pay-per-view. Sting said that's nuts and he's not going to do it. And at this point, the ropes were supposed to catch on fire, but they didn't. The fans started laughing and booing, and they retaped it later in the show, and it did work this time. But by that point, the arena was almost empty. Man, these stunts seem to almost never work in WCW. Were these ideas that the WWF could have pulled off? We just didn't have the staff for that sort of thing.
Yes and no. We had some really talented people that were capable of a lot, especially when it came to stunts. But I think the over reliance upon them and the lack of infrastructure. So, in other words, you've got Ellis Edwards, who, by the way, spent 20 years in WWE doing the same thing after he left WCW, right?
Yes.
Ellis Edwards was the guy who was really the architect of a lot of these stunts, working closely with David Crockett and Craig Leathers and a team of people. It wasn't David all by himself or Ellis all by himself. But in order to effectively execute any stunt, first of all, you can't do stunts 5 times in a show or 6 times or 10 times in a show, as we're seeing here, right? If you've got an idea for a big stunt, something to shock and surprise people, or do something that's completely unexpected and perhaps not seen before, or at least a version of something that hasn't been seen before, you got to have the time to plan it, rehearse it, and execute it. And that's where WCW, especially during this time, there were stunts that we pulled off that were pretty cool. Let's go back to, Hall and Nash, the Outsiders running the Steiners off the road. That stunt was so real, we had to pull it off the air because people thought it was an actual crime. So there were stunts that WCW did that we executed incredibly well and believably. Sting rappelling down from the ceiling had never been done before. That was done incredibly well and helped really define Sting's character and create a sense of drama on the show that up until that point hadn't really been seen before. So it wasn't that WCW wasn't capable of it. It's just that at this point in time, WCW 2000, there was an over-reliance upon it and a lack of detail and discipline to design, rehearse, and then execute. This was more of a ready, shoot, aim approach to stunts, and everybody was scrambling and rushing, and there wasn't enough planning to execute properly. And that's what we're seeing here, whether it be the bucket of blood or the ridiculous monster truck stunt and finish or non-finish, whatever the hell that was. And now this, and the whole Vampiro thing, it's funny because one of the I'll never forget when Brad Siegel called me about coming back in 2000. So keep in mind, I'd only been here for about 4 or 5 months, not even that, because I really didn't come in until, when was it, March? I can't even remember. February, March, whatever it was in 2000. I'm here now for about 90 days, 120 days at this point. And I'll never forget one of the first conversations I had with Brad Siegel, who was the president of TNT, for those that don't remember, didn't know. When Brad explained to me why he was interested in bringing me back, he said, Eric, Russo is just too dark. Everything is dark. And there's nothing wrong with having a dark character or several darker heel-ish characters, or even a baby face, kind of like Sting's Crow character that was dark and ominous. But you've got to have a balance. And there was no balance at this point in time. And I think the world of Vampiro, by the way, I just saw him a couple months ago, and I have a lot of respect for Vampiro, but at this point in time, Vampiro was so focused on that dark, demonic kind of presentation of his character that within WCW, where there was so much other dark type characters, or so many other dark type characters in story, it just was too much. It was too much. And Sting wasn't the opposite. It wasn't good guy, bad guy. Sting was a very ominous, brooding, dark character in and of himself. There was no contrast in these characters. This is painful. I want you to know it's 10:26 a.m. on a Sunday morning here in Clearwater. I can hear my grandson playing with my wife in the next room, as you all probably can as well. And I apologize again for that. But man, this is really hard to sit and look at this stuff and remember living through it, because it is ugly.
Don't we all love summer vacation, relaxing, laying out by the pool, barbecues, hitting the beach, doing, well, nothing? Well, how about a summer vacation from your house payments? With SaveWithConrad.com, you can do just that. Reduce your monthly payments by making the equity you built up in your home work for you. You can roll together those high interest rate credit cards into one lower monthly payment and perhaps access some of that newfound equity to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. And how about this? You get to skip your next 2 house payments. That's right. You won't have to make your June or your July house payment. You're done until August 1st. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com. Let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. And did I mention we're offering a 3-year guarantee right now? That's right. That means if at any point interest rates improve over the next 3 years, you get a free refi. That's right. No new lender fees from us. So you get to save money now without wasting money later when the rates improve on a whole second set of closing costs. Why not go to SaveWithConrad.com and get a guarantee? Save money now and save money later with your friend in the mortgage business. That's me, Conrad Thompson at SaveWithConrad.com. Shoot me an email at Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com. Give us a call at 888-425-0105 or get yourself a quick quote. Even talk to a live person right now at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. Let's take a summer vacation from house payments at SaveWithConrad.com.